I literally lived right next to that park. I wasn't even planning to film that day. I had no intent of doing this video. No script, nada, man, nothing. And then suddenly I just was really met by this idea, and I was like, if I don't share it, no one will. So I gotta talk about this stuff, and
yeah, it's like
that's my most viewed video ever. What's up? This is Dan from the New Travel, and this is Low-Key MTL.
Prochaine station.
Low-Key MTL.
How did you start with like filmmaking in general? Is that just something you always been interested in, or did you just do that specifically and learn for YouTube?
Well, it's a funny story. I was always inspired by filmmakers. I've always liked film, but I saw it as something that was out of reach. It seemed like this really expensive and complicated process in my mind. Which, to be fair, like when I was younger, it was. Like before the new cameras came out and suddenly everyone could make a film on their iPhone and stuff, there was a time it was really complicated and expensive. But I've always had a passion for storytelling. So my background comes from a writing background. I studied creative writing in school, and I always loved like telling stories in that way.
Cool.
So I guess going back to 2015, I started a travel blog. I had just moved to France at the time, and I went there with a working visa, lived in Paris for a little bit, tried to save some money, traveled to Europe.
How did France happen? Like you just wanted to go for work, for school?
Yeah, so France happened. I mean, I'll take one step back to the beginning, I guess, when I had just finished school, and I didn't know, like a lot of people, I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. I had an arts degree, and as I said, I like to write, but like journalism is kind of a dying thing. There weren't a lot of job opportunities knocking on my door. So I thought, why don't I move somewhere, become an English teacher? So I got a job in South Korea teaching English.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
And that's how I started. It was a sweet job. They actually pay for your flight to Korea and home.
Okay. Awesome.
And they give you a free apartment for the year.
Okay.
Plus your salary, right? So like,
yeah, so you could just worry about food.
Yeah, exactly. Like whatever you eat and whatever you drink, that's your expenses basically. So it was a good chance to save some money, go traveling. So I did that for a while. I lived in Korea. I had that experience in another country. Then I backpacked through Asia and met some other people who, they were just, the term digital nomad?
Yeah.
Yeah. So these were like early digital nomads. These guys from San Francisco who were like running some company out of Thailand. And I was just like, wait, you can do this? Like, this is an option?
Yeah.
No one told me about this in school, right?
And there's no like big YouTube back then to like really learn about stuff like that.
Yeah, it was pretty, I guess there was a community, but they kind of kept to themselves. It wasn't like a widely talked about thing.
Right.
So anyway, like once I saw that, I was like, like I want to figure out a way to do that. I kind of planted this seed in my mind. Like one day I want to just work and travel. How cool would that be? But I at the time I didn't know how. So once Korea was done, I came home, immediately wanted to travel again. And actually my dad helped talk me into it. He always dreamed of me working for the Canadian government, which is what he did. So he's like, well, you may as well get better at French.
Right.
If you get fluent in English and French, like it'll help you. Which
you grew up in Montreal though?
No, man, I grew up in the prairies.
Oh, okay.
I grew up in Winnipeg.
When did you come to Montreal?
Well, we can jump to that, but here I'll quickly.
I was just curious, like what year, like just.
When? About 2019.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I had one epic summer before the world shut down. Yeah.
No, okay.
So I got a taste of the real Montreal, and then everything changed.
That was the best. That was like a Montreal at its peak. So that's that's the best time.
It was a good summer.
So you go to France.
Yeah. So anyway, I ended up in France just because, I was on the travel path and I wanted to do whatever I could to keep traveling, but I didn't have the cash to just be like, doing nothing. So I got a working visa ended up working at an Irish pub. It was probably the only place that would hire someone with my broken French at the time. And I worked with a guy from England, another Canadian. My manager was Canadian. She was from Toronto. There was an Australian. So we were just a weird bunch of people, like serving Jaeger bombs to drunk tourists until 4 a.m.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And that's how I ended up in France.
Okay.
Yeah.
So like now, like, are you starting to think about like a video blog, and like, is that something you're just like, oh, maybe I could go to YouTube?
You know, I wish I'd started. It's interesting when you start a YouTube channel, because it's like a period in your life where all the memories before that almost don't exist.
Yeah.
Because it's like, shit, I can swear on this?
Yeah.
Okay. It's like, shit, like, you know, I can go back to my memories from 2017, 2018, like see them in full HD and rewatch them. Mm-hmm. Before that, those France memories are only in my head. Mm-hmm. And a few terrible photos that I took at the time.
It's just the pictures, right? Yeah.
So I wish I'd started YouTube at that time I was in Europe, but that would actually come a year later in 2016. But to go back to your question of like why I started, it was actually just to help the blog. Like,
you had a blog?
Yeah, I had a travel blog, so I was writing about my experiences.
Oh, right, yeah.
But
was that more to kind of just create some kind of experience for the job field?
It was to create some experience. It was to flex the muscle of being a writer. You know, it's like anything. I think if you're a musician, if you're a filmmaker or whatever, if you really want to do it, you need to be doing it.
Yeah.
Especially with writers. There are a lot of people who say they want to write and might think they're good at writing, but if you're not doing it,
you're
like what do you actually, like, you are what you make, right?
Yeah. It's the 10,000 hours, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Like and you know, I was having all these experiences. I thought, you know, maybe one day when I'm an old man, I'll want to look back at this. Mm-hmm. So like, even just for myself, I should do it. But I started to get an audience. You know, I had a couple posts that were like, you know, extending past my friend group, you know, doing okay.
So when did you like decide you're like, okay, I'm gonna do YouTube like consistently, and I'm just like, you're gonna like almost as if it was a job, you know?
Yeah. Well, it's funny. Like as I said, my very first couple videos were just to support the writing. It was like video SEO was a term people were using. Oh, it'll help your post be found if you do a video. Okay. So I just did a video with that in mind, you know? But then a funny thing happened. The videos very quickly started getting more views than the posts.
Yeah.
So I spent 90% of my effort on this thing, and then 10% would go to this video, and more people would see it.
Yeah.
So then I was like, wait a second, something's going on here with these videos. Mm-hmm. This was around 2016. At the time, you might remember, like, Facebook was really promoting Facebook video. I just took an honest look at my own media consumption, and I was like, you know, I'm someone who likes to read, but I'm just watching videos all day. Like, I love videos. Yeah. So I just felt like there was a moment in time when it was really the move to make. And, you know, I was inspired by some other YouTubers I was watching too. There's this guy a lot of people know named Casey Neistat.
Yeah,
who was like the OG New York City vlogger. And I just thought it was so cool what he was doing. So inspired by him and a few other people, I started to take it serious. When it became real, I mean, it's, you know.
Did you have that in mind? Like, were you like, oh, this could be something? Or were you kind of just doing it to see where it goes?
I mean, at the very beginning, it was definitely see where it goes.
Okay.
But, you know, it's interesting. You have these moments in your life where you kind of get inspired by people around you. Mm-hmm. I started to meet some other people who were doing it full time. Started to meet some other people who, like, actually YouTube, or in some cases Instagram, like, was their life, and they were working with tours and boards and traveling around. I wanted to get there, but I didn't know the steps. You know, I still felt like I was on the outside looking in. And there's also imposter syndrome with something like YouTube, right? Because there's like different kinds of filmmakers. Yeah. There's the people doing the super cool, like, you know, you're working with brands and you're doing the super sexy B-roll shots. I didn't do that.
Yeah, they're literally making short films every week.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I was more of a storyteller, just like, hey, here's my experience. Let me share it. Let me put some silly jokes in or whatever, and let me show you what this travel place is like.
Right.
I had a core group of followers, but yeah, I just felt like in my own mind, I wasn't there yet.
So when did that switch for you? And you're like, oh, maybe I do have like something that people want to see. Was it a specific video that took off?
I'll tell you the journey, man. Like after France, after Korea, after all that stuff, I kind of got burned out on travel and the whole lifestyle around 2017. I'd also met my girlfriend at the time. She wanted to settle in Canada and move to Vancouver. I wanted to move there too. I'd lived in BC before and I love it out there as well. So I was like, you know what, this is good. I moved to Vancouver. I got a job working in the marketing department for this startup company, you know, typical startup place where you get like free beer fridge and pizza parties on Friday. You know, they treated us nice.
It's comfortable.
It was, I was back in that comfortable gig and I was saving money again, but the work was so uninspiring compared to what I'd been doing where you're just creatively expressing things, right? So I felt at the time, you know, I was wearing like a nice shirt to work, you know, I felt like that's just a stage in my life that's over. But after work, I was still doing the videos. I actually reached out to the Vancouver Tourism Board. I was like, hey, like, what do you think of this? And they weren't ready to pay me any money, but they gave me something called the Vancouver Experience Pass, which is basically like, here's free entry to anything interesting in the city. Like, go have fun, make some videos.
Okay, cool.
So that was the first sign of like, hey, you know, I probably could have done that 2 years ago with some other place I was living. I just didn't have the confidence. I didn't think to myself, this is a business, this is real. I'm going to go approach people and like start making things happen.
Yeah. You're kind of like resetting for those 2 years. Right?
Yeah. Once you make that shift, things start to open up.
Yeah. So did you notice like you started like connecting or running into more people like minded and stuff like that when you started going down that route? Because that's something that happened to me when I started going, once I decided like that, like you just said, automatically I just started like running into people or like connecting with people specifically that go with the whatever I'm working on or doing at the time.
I think you're always gonna attract what you put out in life, like broadly speaking. And YouTube is a very clear example of that. If you I mean, like I'll say it how it is. If you make a bunch of drama videos and like things that are kind of like you're getting your clout, you're getting your fame based on trying to tear people down, you're going to have a nasty comment section. You're going to have people who are attracted to like that kind of like negativity and stuff, right? Toxic comments. But if you're trying to make something real, you're trying to make something
meaningful.
Meaningful or to connect people in different places, maybe like you're doing with this podcast, you're going to start realizing that people feel that frequency and that they want to connect. They want to help out in some way.
That's what I like about your videos, because like you have like a certain style to them, whereas like you would be talking on camera, but you would like kind of implement the videos of what you're talking about. So you'd be like, oh, I went to this train station and like didn't want me to film, for example, but then you would have some like shots of that. And so like people kind of feel like what you were going through as you were filming, but they also get like a voiceover of like what was going on, you know? Is that just like a thing you just did randomly, or is it like a structure that you figured out over time?
The good, the bad, and the ugly, man. That's what I try and share. I think with the travel industry in particular, we have a problem where it's all become about like bikinis in front of the beautiful beach, or like the guy with the abs doing a backflip off the waterfall. I've done a lot of traveling. That's not travel. I'm sorry. I mean, I shouldn't say it's not travel, but that's like a little piece of the puzzle. And those same people behind the scenes, they're doing the same thing, which is like the 12-hour bus ride where everyone is stinky, everyone hasn't showered all day, and everyone's like, oh, when are we going to get here? There's no Wi-Fi. What's going on? Or you missed your flight. Or, I mean, you know, these days you got COVID, like who knows? And shit happens. If you travel enough, like real life is still there. And what I try to do is show people real life. I try to document what's happening. And so then if people travel there, they don't have this like fantasy expectation. They're like, oh, this is actually what the city's like.
And this is what you should expect if you're doing this specific like van trip across this place, kind of thing, you know?
Let's talk about Montreal. Like I talked to someone who basically he makes content in Montreal, and he was like, I never show a construction cone.
Oh yeah.
He said that as like kind of a point of pride. He's like, I don't show the cones. I want Montreal to look its best.
Okay, interesting.
Now, as you say, interesting perspective. I'm not saying it's wrong for him, but for me, like I'll show the cones and I'll joke about it. I'll be like, oh, look at all these cones on the street here, because then the locals who are watching understand, like, we hate the cones too. Like, you have a joke with them.
Yeah.
And then the tourists who are watching those videos, it's not like they're not going to see the cones when they arrive. Like, they have eyes,
Yeah, and that's true, because then now the tourists have like real insight,
Yeah.
Because like the cones are a part of, like, it's so much a part of the city that like it's a part of my set.
like have you ever seen a little ad from a tourism board or something where everything's so perfect, but you don't really feel what that place is like?
Yeah, like the sandals ads and stuff. Those
exactly.
Are like the all-inclusive ones. Yeah. Have you ever done an all-inclusive trip?
When I was a kid, like I took a trip on a cruise ship with my parents, and I love my parents if they're watching this. Like no shade, no, don't take this the wrong way, but my biggest memories from that cruise ship that we took down to the coast of Mexico, and like we went to Mexico for a day. We got to see some ancient ruins and stuff. But my biggest memory from that trip was probably the 24-hour ice cream bar they had on the ship. I thought that was the coolest thing at 10 years old. I'm like, 24-hour ice cream. This is like, it was travel, but I didn't learn anything about Mexico. I didn't meet a Mexican. I didn't really broaden my mind in any way. I just broadened my stomach. I had a lot of good food, and you got to chill on the ship. So for me, that's kind of what the beach resort experience is. If you have a good group of friends, you can all hang out and have a good time. If you were on your own, I don't know. It's not for me. I think it would feel kind of empty.
I feel it's more of like the vacation in sense of like not having to do anything or worry about anything.
Yeah.
And you're just on a boat, like in the middle of nowhere.
And that's a good point, because I try to. I've had this conversation with people. A good friend of mine, like I was kind of riffing on that beach resort culture and being like, it's not for me, not for me. But then she pointed out, listen, like my parents go to beach resorts because they work, 51 weeks of the year, and they have 1 week and they just want to rest somewhere in the sun. What's wrong with that? And then I thought about it, I'm like, you know what, you're right. I shouldn't say there's something wrong with that, because for some people it's exactly what they need. It's just, for me, travel means something different,
That's it, yeah.
Yeah.
Same, like I feel the same way. When I travel, I rather go to the hostels and like meet the people that are like looking for other people like me, you know what I'm saying? Like, and those are always my best experiences. Like, it was always like in the hostels and like not having a plan. Which, I want to ask you about that. So when you travel...
Well, first, tell me about that. Where did you stay in hostels? Like, what's your background?
So I did a trip across Europe.
Yeah.
So I have family in Sweden. So what we did is we went to Sweden.
Cool.
We bought a minivan. And then we just drove across Europe from Sweden to like Denmark and like eventually like the UK, like France and everything. And then we came back. But I was also like 19 at the time. And it was me and my cousins.
Cool.
So I didn't really do much decision making. I was kind of just riding along. Now looking back, there's like so many places I wanted to visit. So like I'm definitely gonna make a trip back there. But it was definitely a cool experience to just like go on the Autobahn on this minivan.
Yeah.
And like the car was just
the Autobahn's crazy.
Yeah, and the car was just getting heavier and heavier throughout the trip because we just kept adding, like every place we visit, we were like buying more things, right?
Yeah.
So so like most of those spots were hostels, and that's the best way to get information of like where to go and like cool spots to see, I feel.
It's hostels for me. There's like the two big benefits. Most people focus on the first one, which is the cost. It's like can be significantly cheaper than hotels and even Airbnbs, like hostels. There's budget hostels in places like Vietnam. I've had one $5 a night. And it came with a free beer every night too.
No way.
Every night at the bar they give you free beer, and it was $5 a night.
That's amazing.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like that was a few years ago. I don't know if it's still doing that, but I'm sure it's still pretty cheap. So the first benefit is the price, but then the second part, which you're talking about, is like the social aspect, the people you meet, and just there's some crazy travelers out there, man. Like I've been lucky to travel a lot, but even me, when I stay at some hostels, you just meet someone like probably doesn't even have shoes on half the time. Just these crazy hippies who have been going for like 4 years straight. You're like, look at this guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Some people just start off with like a plan on traveling for a month, and then before you know it, they're just like gone, and they're like, yeah, I'm here now. Like,
I in my heart, I'm more connected to those people, like the crazy budget travelers who just keep going and going.
Yeah,
that's like my real inspiration, more than the luxury side of things. So there's like these two sides of travel.
Yeah, for sure. It's like with my trip, that's what we kind of sprinkled in the luxuries. So in certain places, we would get like a hotel or an Airbnb, but for the most part, in between, we would do like a lot of hostels, and like we kind of mixed it up, both sides. But hostels are always the best experiences. When I was in BC, it was me and a friend. We went to, I think we were in Whistler.
Nice.
And we had like no plan or nothing to do. And we're like, all right, let's just make some friends. Where should we go? Oh, let's just go to the hostel. Like there's always like a main like chilling area. You just go there, kind of walk
Was
around.
it the same sun hostel?
Yeah.
I've been to that one.
It's like on the rooftop there.
Yeah, that's cool.
We just met some people and had like a great day. It was fucking amazing. So that's what I wanted to ask you about. So how much planning goes into your trips versus like just going with the flow?
I'm definitely a fan of going with the flow. Sometimes too much so. Like, to give you an example, my next trip, which I'm actually leaving for next week, is to Guatemala.
Okay, cool.
I booked a one-way ticket. I don't know when I'm coming back to Montreal. Now, it's not gonna be like 4 years from now or something, I hope, because I'm still paying rent here. Like I got things to come back for. Don't worry, Montreal, I'm not leaving. But I think if you know, let's say I planned out 3 weeks in Guatemala, and then 2 weeks in, met some really cool people who are like, oh, we're going down to El Salvador. There's this beach you really like, no one knows about. It's the most beautiful beach in Central America. Like, we got a spot in our van if you want to come. To people who haven't traveled much, that might sound crazy, like, oh, that would never happen. It actually happens a lot. If you're open-minded and you talk to people, it's so easy to make friends when you're traveling. And
everybody's on that same wavelength though. Everybody's just kind of there to meet new people and travel.
Exactly. No one knows what's going on. Everyone's open for an adventure. It attracts those type of people. And if you book everything in advance and you schedule every day in advance, you're cutting off the opportunity for that to happen.
Right.
So I'm definitely a fan of.
So you don't book anything at all in between? You just kind of have the one spot to like land in, and then you just figure it out?
I mean, this trip's a bit different because I was invited down by someone with a tour company.
Okay, cool.
So I'm going to be joining his tour through Guatemala for the first week.
Okay.
And then after that, I have a town that I'm kind of, I know the next step. And then I'll give you a little exclusive. I haven't mentioned this before, but the plan now is to continue down to El Salvador.
Okay.
You might know they just made Bitcoin like official currency down there. So,
but wasn't that like a problem because there's like a lack of education about crypto, so people were against it at first?
I wanna find out.
Okay, amazing.
Because you're definitely hearing different things on the internet, right? There's some people deep in the crypto scene who are like, "This is the beginning. This is the revolution. It's happening." But then, from what I hear, there's also some protests in El Salvador. Some people don't want it; they're not happy. So
so the problem with that is because they don't know what it is, and from all the media they've consumed, they think that it's like laundering money and like it's all like corrupted stuff. So what happened is when they like opened up that first ATM, they just destroyed it. They just they just broke it all down.
Dude, imagine if the mayor of Montreal was like, "We're making Montreal Coin. This is the official." Like, people would be freaking out. Like,
yeah, true. You're right.
It's a big thing, right?
Yeah. But if Montreal Coin, if there's a thing called the Go Coin or something, that would be
LOWKEY MTL coin.
Yeah. I mean that would be cool. That'd be cool. Like a low-key NFT. So are you like really versed in that space, or are you just kind of curious about it?
Well, it's interesting because I know some people, like I said, you know, the digital nomad scene, the people who are traveling a lot. There's definitely an overlap with crypto. Like, some people there are the lucky ones or the smart ones who got in heavy, you know, in 2015 or whatever, and have kind of made enough money that they're just living their dream. They're just traveling. So like, there is some element of that in the travel space. you know, a few years ago, I got invited to this website called Library. It's LBRY. And they were trying to make a new YouTube based on cryptocurrency.
Oh, cool.
So it was like a decentralized thing. They were like, we have our own coin. And basically we're gonna pay you more of this coin based on the views that you get on our platform. So I got reached out from them and they were like, hey, we're gonna give you these coins for free. You just let us like sync your YouTube and upload the videos over here.
For the content, yeah.
I thought it might be a scam at first. It was one of those things where like, you know, crypto, it's like, well.
Yeah. And when was this? Like a while ago?
Yeah, this was like, it was like 2018, 2019.
Okay, yeah. That was like that first crypto wave though. That's
so I was like a bit skeptical, but I was like, I don't have much to lose.
Yeah.
So I agreed to it. Kind of forgot about it for a while. I would check in every once in a while. Hey, look at this. I got some views over there.
Yeah.
But I didn't pay too much attention until the 2020, 2021 bull run.
Yeah.
I was like, let me check how that LBC library coin is doing. Suddenly I had like $2,500 in my
Oh wow.
in my account.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, if this is real, I'm cashing out. I'm gonna like take this money.
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I cashed it out and got it in my bank account, I was like, holy shit.
This is real.
And I took that and I bought a new MacBook Pro.
Amazing.
So now I have this laptop, and when someone says crypto's a scam or like talks out their butt about how it's not real, I'm like, hey, paid for, buy crypto.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're talking about.
That's actually a great concept. It's called LBRY.
Yeah, they kind of rebranded as something called Odyssey.
Okay.
Since I cashed out, I haven't been paying super close attention.
Is it Audius maybe? Audius or Odyssey?
Odyssey.
Odyssey, okay.
Odyssey. But yeah, LBRY, if you Google that, anyone would find
because right now there's a lot of problems with YouTube and like demonetization and stuff like that. So that's going to solve a lot of problems for sure.
Censorship, man. That was like part of what attracted me. Not that I make super controversial videos or whatever, but...
It's the problem is it's an algorithm deciding, right? So like, if you're like, if you schedule the video to post and now you have to take like a week to like sort out as something that an algorithm just chose, like it's annoying.
There are people on YouTube who had channels with big audiences. It's their full-time job. Mm-hmm. Like, for example, in the gun niche.
Yeah.
I'm a Canadian. Like, I'm not a freedom-loving American. I don't own any guns, right?
Yeah.
However, there were channels that were basically gun education. Like, imagine like a middle-aged man. He's not trying to shoot any place up. He's trying to educate people how to safely use these products.
Yeah.
But then after some shooting in the United States, YouTube kind of felt the pressure and they like went hard against gun channels. They shut them all down.
No way.
Even ones that are just trying to show you how to safely shoot a target and educate people, shut down. So imagine this is your job, this is your full-time thing. You've been building it for like 7-8 years, and then it's just gone. Mm-hmm. No explanation, just like no more guns on YouTube type thing.
And there's no real backup plan for that, you know, because YouTube is like such a monopoly. It's like it's the only place to be because it's like the only place that you have access to such a creative.
Yeah, and as you said, like it's something where if that person could actually talk to the CEO of YouTube, the CEO would probably agree, like, oh, we made a mistake, we should bring you back. But they're so big, they're dealing with every country on earth, every possible type of content. Mm-hmm. It's just really hard to talk to anyone.
Yeah.
So they have a few problems over at YouTube.
Yeah. So
don't shut me down for saying that.
But so if there is this other platform, are you still like posting videos on that platform, or did you just completely stop?
Well, they actually did something where they like stopped the incentive. I stopped getting. They had an incentive where they're like, we'll give you this many coins every month just to automatically do it. Mm-hmm. And suddenly they sent out an email saying like that program's over.
Okay.
So after that, I was like, hey, I thought this was forever, you know? So I was kind of like, hey, you know, you got stood up by your date over there.
Yeah.
So I don't pay super close attention, but I know it still exists.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like there's going to be a boom of those kind of like platforms that are going to start rising, especially with the whole blockchain world. It's really interesting.
Yeah, man. Or like maybe TikTok will make a move into long form content.
Well, TikTok. That's what I was asking about Audius, because Audius is a company that's like music on the blockchain. So TikTok just paired with them recently.
Oh, no way.
Yeah. So now TikTok is gonna have like the blockchain. I don't know. Like I'm not explaining this well at all, but like the company's called Audius, and it's like basically it's music on the blockchain, and TikTok's gonna use that or like work with them for all their music. Which is huge because like TikTok's so big on like the music right now, right?
Yeah, man.
That's crazy. Like
That how old are you, by the way?
I'm 26.
26. Okay, so I'm a few years older. Are you? Wait, is that technically millennial, Gen Z, kind of in the
I think
middle?
I'm like the end. I'm like the last part of millennial.
Cool.
Yeah.
I feel like Gen Z
Or the first part of millennial.
Gen Z is so tuned on to TikTok.
Yeah.
Where I'm still like, I mean, I know it's a big thing, but I'm not really giving much attention to TikTok.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Okay.
But maybe I should, because like this technology goes in waves, right? It's hard to imagine that YouTube will ever not be what it is.
Mm-hmm.
But 10 years from now, man, things can change.
For sure, it's like Vine, right? Vine came
Yeah.
and went away. There's Instagram,
Yeah.
which just copies everything that tries to fight them.
So I'm trying not to be an old guy who just like rejects the new technology,
But that's the problem. We're like,
Yeah.
when do you stop? Like, there's always going to be the new thing,
Mhm.
and that's what happened with Instagram. Like when all our parents went to Facebook, we're like, yo, screw that, we're going to go to Instagram. And then now when all the parents are on Instagram, all the kids are going to TikTok.
Dude.
So it's going to keep going.
Going back to my travel blog days when I was writing, I was like trying to learn like how people do it, and you find your community of people doing that. I met so many people who had blogs who would spend, I'm talking like 7-8 hours a day sharing shit on social media, making beautiful like images for Pinterest or Twitter or I don't know, maybe Vine, like whatever was
Yeah, all the
popular at the
platforms,
time,
yeah.
like every single platform. But they'd only have one post on their blog every month.
Oh wow.
It's like, wait, if you took half that time you're wasting on all these social media apps and actually did like what you're really good at in one place, maybe it would just grow organically. Crazy fact. The girl who I mentioned who told the guy on the motorbike that I was sick,
Right.
she was from China.
Okay.
Guess where?
Wuhan?
She's from Wuhan.
No way.
So a year before COVID exists,
Yeah.
I'm not going conspiracy here. I'm just stating facts about what happened.
No, for
a
sure,
year before
yeah,
COVID
it's
exists, I was traveling, met a girl from Wuhan, China, who was with me and helped me out when I was super sick.
Right. What were you?
I'm not saying
were you seeing
she
her?
wasn't sick. I'm not saying that was the path.
No, but were you,
I just think
were you guys kind of like seeing each other while traveling, or were you just friends? Like, what do you mean?
we were just friends.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay, But you guys like went like traveled around a bit. Like
yeah, it was like it was Holi Festival.
okay.
You know
okay.
Holi?
No.
It's like this festival where everyone.
Oh, like the color fights.
Dude, this is how I got sick. Everyone like literally strangers just touch paint. Yeah, the color
Yeah,
fights.
yeah, yeah,
Everyone
yeah.
throws colors at each other.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
random Indians will just come up and like put
Wipe
paint on your face.
Yeah.
It's the worst thing ever for
Yeah.
a place dealing with sickness, right?
For sure.
But yeah, we were part of a group who were all experiencing this in a city called Jaipur.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were both like, hey, we're both thinking of going to this next town, Pushkar. So we shared a bus and then shared the hostel. And then like, that's how that happened.
Okay.
She's really cool, man, because she like ran away from home.
Okay.
She was, well, kind of ran away from home. She's like 19 years old. And I guess her dad is, I don't think her dad will ever see this, given that he speaks Chinese and probably doesn't watch this podcast.
Yeah.
So I feel safe saying this. His dad is like this businessman who lives in Wuhan. And basically he drove her to the airport thinking that she was then going to fly to Hong Kong and meet another friend in Hong Kong.
Okay.
This girl
As like a
books
business
this
meeting?
girl books a one-way ticket to Delhi, India, and just starts backpacking on her own. And the whole time sending pictures to her dad, being like, "Oh, he wants updates from Hong Kong. I need to send these pictures."
No way. How long
And
was
she was wearing like a nice watch and stuff.
For
She was
sure.
like maybe like an upper class family in China.
100%, yeah.
So like
She
we
never
weren't
traveled.
a couple, but I was attracted to her. I was like, look at you, like you're like totally fearless.
Yeah, rebellious.
In our culture, so many people, especially females, would be kind of afraid of traveling to India on their own.
Mm.
But I love those people who it's like they didn't grow up with any fear. Just fearless, like walking around like, oh, this is fine.
Yeah. How much, how long was she traveling for when you met her?
I think probably like a few weeks. The whole
Okay,
thing,
okay.
probably like a few
That's
weeks.
what she was still keeping up with. But was she planning on going back? Was that just like a quick little vacay for her?
Yeah, like run away from home might be like exaggeration. It was more of like, I think it was more of like what I was talking about to Guatemala. Just book a one-way ticket and
figure it out.
you know, I want to go to India. I'm going to do it.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, not recommending any viewers to take that path, but I think sometimes it's as simple as that. You just make a decision and you don't need to plan too much. You're still going to have good experiences wherever you go. You know?
Is that your phone? No, it's mine.
No.
Oh, it's mine. My bad. Yeah, no, I wanted to ask. So, like, that was probably, say, the Wuhan thing. Or the swine flu thing.
You know what sucks? I was like, we still message sometimes, and I was like, that must suck. Like, your city is now known as the COVID city for all of time.
Yeah.
Like, imagine if Montreal started this. The whole world would be thinking that city.
Yeah, nobody's going to want to travel.
Like, it's a big modern city, 10 million people. Mm-hmm. Everyone will only think COVID-19 forever.
Yeah. Yeah, especially when it's like this big of an impact where like it stops, like it puts the whole world on pause.
Yeah.
There's a lot of trauma and PTSD from that.
But you know what I mean? It felt like the universe had sent me a message. Like almost like they told me COVID is coming. Because I had this thing just like COVID.
Yeah, but which was
And my friend was from Wuhan.
This was like, what year was that?
2019. Exactly a year.
Shit.
Exactly a year before.
So is that after that is when...
It was like March 2019 when I was sick, thinking I was dying in this hostel in India.
No way.
And then exactly a year later, the world shuts down.
So is that the 2019 summer is when you come back to Montreal?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that was your first... how did you end up in Montreal?
Now, I didn't bring COVID to Montreal, guys. Don't get it twisted.
Oh, shit. It all makes sense.
Yeah. The first patient. No. Police come knocking on the door.
Yeah, they're just like tapped into...
No, I had a blood test. It was H1N1.
Mm-hmm.
I just think like, sometimes the world gives you weird coincidences. Like,
no,
you ever have these moments where like, how did that happen?
That's what I'm asking you. So like, that was like the dangerous part of traveling. Did you ever have like a point in traveling where like it just stuck with you for the rest of your life, where like you're like, I don't know what's gonna happen, but I just have a good like gut feeling about this and I'm just gonna go for it? You know what I mean?
Ooh, let me think about that for a second.
Because it sounds so like fucking like spiritual and like like magical in a sense, but like there's something to that. There's something to like really like feeling that you want to go a certain way, and you just kind of like, it doesn't seem like the right decision to make, but you just do it anyways, and then it ends up working out. It's almost like you could see the future in your head somehow. Kind of like the H1N1 thing, but in the H1N1 case, you're not really looking into the future like, oh, there's going to be a pandemic.
When I looking in the future, I got to think about that. You have a story like that?
Well, I have not an exact story, but I would say that like I have a few experiences in life that allowed me to start like just navigating life differently because of what I've done, you know? Like, I remember like that last night in BC, I was like, I didn't book my hostel and the hostel was fully booked. So I needed to like kill time. Like I had to basically kill a night so that I could take the bus in the morning to the airport. And I was like, everybody like in the city, it was like a weekday too. So no one's really like partying, but I'm like, I'm going to run into somebody and like, I'm going to have like a night. Like I was like alone. And then I just really believed it. And I just remember even at one point, it sounds kind of weird, but like I was just looking at the sky and like almost like telling the universe, I'm like, this is going to happen. Like, this is like, that's what I'm doing right now. And like literally like not even like 20 minutes later, I run into these dudes and they're like, oh, like come, we're going to go to this like specific bar. And then I just ended up having like a crazy night with them. And then we're still in the same area. So I was able to take the bus in the morning. But it was just weird. Like just like when I decided that I'm going to do something and I did it. Same thing at Oshiaga. I was with my buddy from One Track Minds and we had interviews with Roy Woods. And so we didn't have an interview with Jessie Reyes, but she was closing the show and she doesn't do any interviews. Yeah. But we got the interview with Roy Woods and we're like, let's try to get an interview with Jessie Reyes. So we're like asking around in the media tent and stuff. They're like, oh, she doesn't do any interviews. She just comes, she performs and she leaves. While she's on stage, she's like, oh, like this song goes out to like all you people that break rules and like go out of your way. And then we just look at each other like, she's talking to us. She's talking to us right now. And then we just, Josh Wexler, who's the One Track Mind guy, he just came up with the question. He's like, okay, this is the question I'm going to ask. And we both just kind of like, he decided and I kind of just like went with his energy. I'm like, yeah, we're going to do this. We're going to figure it out. We just go backstage. We're like waiting for it to come off stage. The band pulls up, band's doors open. Like they try to get the artist out of there as soon as possible, right? Jessie Reyes is coming off of stage with that like high of like just performing. He was like hesitant at first, but then Josh just goes for it. He like asked her the question. We get the video. she's like engaged. She like does it's like a 2-second interview basically.
Yeah,
But then
yeah.
the video goes on TikTok and like it's like almost plus like 600,000 views. It kind of went viral.
Hell,
You know, like
hell
it's
yeah.
just like it's weird that like there's like literally everything is saying that you're not going to get this interview, and like we somehow figured out a way to do it. So just things like that is what I'm saying. Like
Yeah, you just that's a great story, man. It's a great example of like what comes from self-belief. You know? I'll tell a little story about that. One country I haven't touched on is Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
And Mexico is actually a huge part of my story because after that period in Vancouver when I didn't really, I felt like I was off the travel path, felt like that stage of my life was over.
Mm-hmm.
It was when I moved to Mexico that really got me back. And that's where my YouTube became a job.
Okay.
I went from like maybe 5K subscribers and like a little set, well, not little, I shouldn't like downplay 5,000. Like I love those people who were there from the beginning, but it quickly blew to something much, much bigger than that.
Mm-hmm.
And there's one video in particular that changed everything. And I don't know, at the time, you know, I had like 30, 40,000 subscribers. Like I was doing my thing. I was making vlogs in Mexico City, showing what the city was like, trying to put a positive spin on it. Like I always try to, especially places that people might have negative stereotypes about, I always try to show, no, it's not true. Like here's what the city's really like. And I was doing these videos and things were good, but I was just having a very stressful day. You know, there was one day when the loud traffic was getting to be too much, you know, like I had some roommates in Mexico City and like there was just, everything felt noisy, everything felt overwhelmed in my mind. So I decided I'm just going to leave the camera. Well, okay, I brought my camera, but I wasn't really going to make a video or anything today. Maybe I'll just take some photos if I see something cool,
always
you know.
bring the camera.
Yeah, always bring, well, this story will show you, always bring the camera. But yeah, I didn't have filming on the mind. I was literally like, there's this huge park called Chapultepec Park, which is basically Mexico City's Central Park, but bigger. Like this place is pretty epic. It has a castle that was built by royalty like 250 years ago. There's a zoo, there's 3 museums. It's like, they call it the lung of the city.
Okay.
The lung of Mexico City, this huge park in the middle. And I was just walking around it, taking everything in, you know, in my own mental space, like just a day in nature, you know. And as I was walking around, I started to wonder, like, why does nobody know about this place? Like, I've never heard of Chapultepec Park. None of my friends in Canada have heard of this place. No one outside Mexico really knows it exists.
Oh, yeah.
And yet, when you think of somewhere like Central Park in New York City, everyone knows that place.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's globally recognized, Central Park, right? And that got me thinking, why do we think of Central Park, but we don't think of Chapultepec Park? And for me, that cut to the center of like the way the media mistreats places like Mexico. The way we see them just as kind of like backward places. Oh, the immigrants want to move to the US, or like the cartel, like there's drug violence and okay, you just go there for the beach, but stay away from the cities. Like we don't even hear anything about this place. And so as these thoughts were going through my mind, I just set up my camera on some like, I didn't have a tripod or anything, just like put it on some log that had fallen down. Mm-hmm. And I just started to talk. I just started to share some feelings about how Chapultepec Park is awesome and everyone should know about this place. And I compared it to New York City Central Park and basically like threw some shade at Central Park. I'm like, no, this is the place everyone should talk about because this is like the core of everything that's good about Mexico in my mind.
Right.
And I got home and I felt like, oh, that could be a good video, or it could be, I don't know, like who knows until I see the editor. Mm-hmm. But then I cut it down in this 4-minute little thing and I was like, I think I have something here. But really it was a message like 2 Mexicans more than anything, 2 people being like, this is like what your culture means to me. Mm-hmm. So I subtitled it in English and in Spanish to try and reach more people.
Okay, cool.
Threw it on YouTube. First response was great. People really liked it. Then I threw it on Facebook, which I don't usually do, but I was just like, maybe this is one of those viral things that will catch on. And it did, man. It started to get shared like more than I could imagine. Ended up getting 7 million views on Facebook.
Oh, wow.
It got shared by this guy, the former president of Mexico.
No way.
Yeah. Former president of Mexico shared this thing and was like, I don't know if this was a tourism board or who this guy, Dan guy is, but this Canadian has some good thoughts about Mexico. You should. So suddenly it was everywhere.
For sure, yeah.
And it's crazy because I lived near this park. So like the next day walking down the street, walking by that park, everyone was like looking at me. I felt like every single person like somehow had
already seen it.
Because as you mentioned something about WhatsApp, how like some cultures really use WhatsApp.
Yeah, especially
I feel like Mexico's got that WhatsApp culture too. So it just felt like everyone had shared it. And one of my roommates at the time didn't even really know I did YouTube. It's like a Mexican girl who like worked at a law firm or something.
Okay.
I'd mentioned I do some videos, but she had no idea what I was up to.
Right.
Until she got a text in her family group chat from her like cousin or something. She's like, "Dan, is this you?" Just shows my face. I'm like, yeah, that's me. Holy shit, this is you.
That's crazy, yeah. And the best part of that is that it was just like a message that you really felt, and you're like, you know what, let me just film myself talking about this. And you just kind of like talked about it very genuinely, and like that's what was most relatable too.
That's what I try to do, man. I try to speak about things that matter, and it's not to say like, you know, everyone's got their own path. I'm not saying I'm better than anyone. I'm not saying this is the path for everyone. It's just like
you just know your path in a sense.
It's what I see, and it's what I want to share. You know, I can make a video talking about tacos and comparing tacos, and like it'll get views, but it won't really change anyone's view on things, right? It's like if you have a chance, if you have something important to say, you should probably say it. For sure. And I felt like in this time, I was gifted this view of the city, going back to the spiritual stuff. The fact that I literally lived right next to that park. I wasn't even planning to film that day. I had no intent of doing this video. No script, nada, man, nothing. And then suddenly I just was really met by this idea. And I was like, if I don't share it, no one will. So I gotta talk about this stuff. And
yeah, it's like
that's my most viewed video ever. And I met a Mexican on the streets on Mount Royal Avenue like 5 days ago. Who was like, "Dan, I've been watching you since that Chapultepec video.
Oh, man.
Yeah? Like, I'm so happy to see you in Montreal now."
That's so
People
awesome.
still mention it.
Wow.
It's crazy, man. I love Mexicans.
So once that video takes off, are you now like, because like you could easily get caught up in the keeping up with the video, right? So are you like now trying to make videos that are like similar to that just because you know that one took off? You know?
Yeah, then it's like, oh shit, now what do I do next?
Yeah. Like, what do you do now, you know?
Yeah. I didn't try to just like copy that formula and do more like that, which maybe I'd have more subscribers if I did.
Maybe you should do a Chapultepec part 2.
Yeah. Well, I got to do a Montreal version of that, like something that can.
I mean, we have like the Mount Royal Park, which is like our central park.
Well, I did a video on my channel. I don't know if you've seen it. It's called "Living in Montreal Changed How I See Canada."
Oh yeah, I haven't seen.
And it's not exactly that, because this one's longer. It's more like 12, 13 minutes. I should probably find a way to send this message in 4 minutes, because like, you know, some people don't have that much time, you know. Some people really need the quick shareable content.
Right.
But the message of this is basically like cutting to the core of the French and English debate, and just basically saying like people in Canada don't give Montreal the credit it deserves, because so much of English Canada is in its own bubble and don't think about it and don't understand it. Or sometimes even like talk trash, right? Like sometimes in the prairies where I grew up, there's this idea of like, oh, Quebec, like they're troublemakers. Like they always have to be different. They want to leave Canada. Why don't they just go? Like you hear things like that.
Yeah. It's just the history built it in that sense.
So this video is trying to show, not hating on English Canadians. I am one, right?
Yeah.
But just showing like, this is what Montreal has taught me about Canada. This is like, I now see French Canada differently. I now see it as something that like, it is a culture to be preserved. You know, it is something real and important, and you know.
Yeah, I truly believe that too. But that's also why like I'm like emphasizing the English side of content from Montreal is because we just need to find that middle ground of like, because internationally people are not going to come consume French Canadian content. Yeah, they're going to consume English content that could educate them about French Canada. Yeah.
And the reason I compare it to that Chapultepec video is that every city has like stereotypes or like some kind of negative side of it in a way. In Mexico, it's the idea of people think this place is dangerous or like just full of criminals or whatever. Here, it could be, you know, oh, people like, oh, I can't move there if I speak English, or like, what are French Canadians going to think of me, kind of thing. It's easier to stay away from those topics. And like some people will recommend, like, don't get political. It's like, leave that shit aside. Yeah. But because of that, you don't hear so many people just honestly speaking about these topics. And if you can say something honest, say something real, you will connect with people, because like people like hearing truth, right? Mm-hmm. So I don't know, man. Like I gotta think about that. I gotta ask people like you, like what topics I should really get into in Montreal. But I'm trying to go deeper than just bagels. You know, I'm trying to get to the real stuff.
Not just poutine and bagels and smoked meat.
Yeah. Though I do love smoked meat.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, you can't go wrong with smoked meat. But no, I like the way you're like approaching your content. That's why I find it's really like, especially me from Montreal, like you're the first content from Montreal that I'm watching, and I'm like, oh, this is like, I thought you grew up in Montreal, because the content seems like you grew up in Montreal and you're talking about Montreal, because the way you're interpreting it is pretty like same to the way I'm interpreting the city, you know?
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Are you born and raised?
Yeah, I was born and raised in the West Island. Cool. So no, I like what you're doing, man, and I'm excited to see like what more you come up with and like where you travel to, because I like the format and like the way you're doing it. Yeah. And like now I gotta go visit Chapultepec Park.
Hell yeah, man!
Sounds like a cool park. But yeah,
dude, there's one spot in there. If you ever go, there's one. I'll give a little secret for your viewers, okay, and your listeners out there. There's one spot. It's called, I think it's the Audiorama or like Audio something, and you'll miss it if you don't know it's there. It's just this little doorway. And it opens it up to this place where they're just playing classical music in these speakers, and all these seats that lay back. So you're just looking up at all these different plants they have there, and you just listen to music, and it's the most peaceful experience ever. I didn't notice it until I made that video. Like I must have walked past that door 5-6 times. I never knew it was there. And then after that video, it was like the park opened up and showed me something new. It's like, all right, now you're ready for this place.
Yeah.
Now you're ready for the real park.
Yeah, it's like a video game.
So if any viewers ever make it to that park, look for that spot with the music.
Is that place always like fully packed up with people in it? Or?
No, dude. Like this park probably has tens of thousands of people every day. There's only 20 seats in there, but there's always a couple. It's like a little VIP club that somehow...
Then not a lot of people
somehow stay, because like the door is easy to miss if you don't know to look for it.
Okay.
But if you go there, look for that door.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna. I have to go to Mexico now.
Yeah.
Bro, but like, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, looking forward to more content from the new travel.
Thanks, AJ. Looking forward to more of your podcast.